I heard something disturbing yesterday.
But the leaders at the British Open?
No. This is on the Travis and DeMarco show. DeMarco Farr, right?
I believe so.
I want to say DeMarco Farr was the guy when he played for the Rams when they were in St. Louis and really good, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so they would win, and on Mondays, I think he would bring in big sheet cakes with milk, and they would eat sheet cake and milk. Yeah. Cowboys, they did other things that involved white substances.
Yes, they did.
And the Rams later on had sheet cake and milk. That's a very nice thing that DeMarco Farr did. He's on with Travis Rogers now, former Jim Rome producer, I believe, Travis Rogers. They're on ESPN Los Angeles, and I'm going to let Travis Rogers tell you because I'm bothered by this. Go ahead.
What if I told you there was a deal that had been whispered about with Emmanuel Clase and Steven Kwan from the Cleveland Guardians?
Tell me more.
Here's what it may cost you going back the other way. Justin Robleski, Ben Kasparius, Josue DePaula, and one more prospect.
Oh, geez.
4 guys.
Wait a minute. There is no way the Guardians are taking that deal. Where'd you hear this?
I know things.
You have to put Rushing in that deal. You might even have to put Dustin May in that deal.
Can we interest them in Dustin May, who is a walkaway free agent this year?
So why would the Guardians do that?
Because they want to get younger.
But those guys are young. Clase and
not
Kwan
so much, but Kwan's on the younger side.
They're both under 30, right?
Starting pitching in particular, you'd get 2 of them.
Yep.
In this situation, you'd get Robleski and Kasparius. Josue DePaula could be a big deal.
I find that hard to believe that Cleveland would do that deal, but I love who you're going after, and I would be willing to put Hae-Sung Kim in that deal.
So I'm going to try to make this not devolve into the argument we've had at separate times for the last 2 days. You just can't trade away Steven Kwan, and I find it to be, I think it's unforgivable to Paul Dolan if he doesn't. If they were to agree to something like that. I understand that they offered him something last year. He turned that down. Is that to be to Yes. Okay.
Yeah, well,
I understand that's been turned down. Okay,
it's been
reported that he turned something down, which I don't know if he's addressed it, but either way, you're 4 games out of the wild card right now. You have a frustrated fan base. You have a frustrated fan base that you were 3 games away from winning the ALCS, which feels like, by the way, in real time, that felt like it was light years away from you. So 3 games makes it feel light, but you were in the ALCS last year. You've moved on from some guys. We have been okay with those moves for the most part. I mean, again, Josh Naylor, he's battled his health issues this year again, injury issues this year again. Andres Jimenez looks like he could be out of baseball if it weren't for his contract at times. You've made some questionable moves for some, but they've worked and not worked in some cases. Again, you had a guy in Junior Caminero where Carl Ravitch made a joke about you during the home run derby. So you've had some moves over the last couple of years, been good and bad. But, man, you got a guy like Steven Kwan. If you were to do it next year and he hasn't signed anything, I could understand there being a difference in conversation. We have the right to new information. But, man, you do it right now. I don't want to win an argument in a cheap way. I don't even think that's a win in an argument, for crying out loud. But my God almighty, to move on from Steven Kwan at this juncture when there's still 2 years left of player control. Emmanuel Clase, notice I'm not saying anything about him. I think that this could very well be a possibility, even though he's relatively cheap for a pitcher here over the next couple of seasons. When it comes to Steven Kwan, if we're batting our eyes at $30 million a year or 120 over 4 years, like what we did last week, then we're just not in the right business. I'm talking about the Dolans and the Guardians. Like, if we're batting our eyes at this and fans are like, well, I don't know guys, that's a going rate. If the Dodgers were to trade for Steven Kwan, they're going to trade for him, and then they're going to pay him probably in that neighborhood. 4 years, $120 million. I don't know why we're talking about trading this guy this soon. 2, I don't know why we're arguing on whether or not to pay the guy. Where's the rest of our offense come from? Kyle Manzardo's not ready yet. I would like him to play every day so I can talk about him being ready yet, but he doesn't play every day. That's why. Go ahead.
So is it because of what a disastrous season it's been following what happened in the offseason?
Hasn't even been a disastrous season. You're 4.5 games out of the wild card
what I mean by that is, were you saying the same thing when we were talking about Lindor? Because it seems like as a city, we all just assumed Lindor was going to be gone.
Because Lindor,
nobody was killing Dolan. There's always going to be people going, why can't you retain your own guys?
Lindor's a different player. Lindor can hit for power. Lindor, you already knew he was going to be priced out. And again, there was always the creamy nougat that you had with everybody. We're saying, if you offered, because we all thought it was the Cubs at one point, right? And you had said, hey, If the Guardians offered $300 million right there along with the Cubs, he's going to take the Cubs.
Yeah, he wanted
Once
to be
you
in a
said
bigger
that,
city.
That was it. So we understood with that, this is a guy who's affordable. I would think relatively affordable.
Well, so he was 10 years. Lindor was 10 years, 341, so 34 a year.
And that how many years ago was that?
Kwan, that was, what, 2021? No,
yeah, 4 years ago. The market's changed.
So we've been talking Kwan $30 million. People think we're crazy with the $30 million number. People in Cleveland think we're crazy. I don't know what they would say outside of Cleveland. Typically, man, outside of Jose, and Jose was $20 million a year, right? $25 million a year. What was Jose? Like, I bristle at the thought of the Guardians ever paying anybody under this setup. And we shake our heads every time they make the trades, but they had a great run where they would make those trades and the team would get better. Like, maybe not instantly better the day they made the trade, but their team always would make the trade. It would stockpile the prospects, and they would get that machine going again. We can go all the way back to Shapiro and his deals. Man, you go back, Bartolo Colon, CC Sabathia, Cliff Lee, like the list goes on, right? Of the trades that they would make. And over time, I think a lot of fans of baseball here in this town were like, yeah, I kind of trust the organization to be better off after the trade. And again, maybe not instantly after the trade because of the way these trades work with prospects.
If you trade him.
But in this case, it does seem like nobody is arguing that might be a good deal.
Could you forgive the Guardians if they traded Steven Kwan? 216-474-0092. Get in soon because we only have a little bit to do this. Mary Kay joins us at 8:22. If they were to make that deal, you have to come right out and tell me, or you have to leak it to the media even before you trade him. And we only have a couple of weeks before the trade deadline that he doesn't want to be here. You have to leak it to everybody that no matter what you like, what you said about Francisco Lindor, and I didn't bat an eye at what you said. I believed you when you said this. Is you got to tell everybody that you can offer him $120 million. He don't want to sign here. He wants to sign with someone else. You have to make that palatable because if you don't, I'm looking at it from a Steven Kwan situation of he's a good baseball player, and I'm also looking at it from a Jose Ramirez situation. How are we getting better to make the most of Jose Ramirez's time in Cleveland? We're not by letting go of Steven Kwan. If we get a bunch of prospects, we get a bunch of 20-year-olds. Okay, my guy is 32 years old. My major player, the guy who they'll build a statue to, is 32 years old. That doesn't help. By the time Jace Laviolette is able to come up here, if he comes up here, according to some scouts, but that's a different conversation. By the time Jace Laviolette's able to come up here, he's talking about 36 years old. 36. It's going quick, guys. So I want to make the most of what the time we have left with Jose Ramirez is over the next 2, 3, 4 years. And so I got to start to try to hit on this. That's half the reason people are so angry about them not making moves during this offseason. It's a typical Dolan's fair, but we could talk about that any day. That's part of it, too. What has Steven Kwan done that tells me that I can't pay him $120 million over 4 or 5 years? But I'll stick to 4 over that period of time, and it's not going to pay off in the long run. He's been a consistent table setter here over the last couple of years. He's one of 2 guys that is still able to battle through slumps and get out on the other side, him being the other guy being the Hall of Famer on our baseball team, and he's the only 2 guys that we can count on. So if he's one of those 2 guys, and I think that he will be affordable, by the way, for other teams if you did have to trade him. If, say, you did have to liquidate all the assets and bust the thing out, people aren't going to trade for Steven Kwan. You might not get back exactly what you are getting in this deal, but you're still going to get something for Steven Kwan. So I still find him to be a tradable commodity if worse were to come to worse.
Yeah, what obviously makes me nervous is if they sign Kwan and let's say it's the $30 million a year and you used, 4 years? Which I think Kwan's looking for probably more, but whatever. If that's what it was here, does that come at the expense of being able to build any kind of a roster around him?
I would hope that it doesn't.
But just knowing how they operate, where the payroll has been, the loss of the local TV money, does it make you at all nervous that if they did pay him, then the rest of the roster would be garbage and it would just be a bunch of young guys?
It just makes you sick because I got a guy who's an all-star and now I can't even pay the all-star. Before we were talking about guys who were supposed to be Hall of Famers not being able to pay Hall of Famers. Now we can't afford to pay an all-star. Steven Kwan's a legit all-star. Well, he's not even a starter, and we're talking about we can't afford to pay the guy.
Well, it's just that he's making $4 million now. If all of a sudden he's up to 30, where is that money coming from?
Can we call David Blitzer up for some money?
Well, that's the thing. He's been here. And the payroll's gone down. That's what makes me nervous about everybody assuming that when he takes over the team, it's going to be this panacea and we're going to have, all of a sudden $100 million more a year in payroll.
I agree with you there.
Like, wouldn't he, if he was really, that's why I do question a lot of that. If he were really setting up to take over, like, he wouldn't want them to bottom out in payroll now.
Let me get to Matt on the road. You're next up on the Fan.
Well, I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head there. First off, morning, guys. But, it's kind of like what everyone's frustration has been with the Jose deal. It's like Jose took this, huge discount, this hometown discount, and all they've done is cut payroll ever since he signed that deal. And it's almost kind of been even more punishment to the fans. It's like, hey, you finally got this one guy that's going to basically spend his career in Cleveland. He's not going to win anything because you're going to gut the team around him and basically make him a Joe Thomas like figure for the Guardians. But hey, I guess you can enjoy him now for the rest of his career.
Yeah, Matt, is Kwan good enough? That's part of the problem. Like, do you think $30 million is the sweet spot, or do you think we can get him for less?
$30 million is the going rate of owning a baseball team. I'm sorry, if you can't afford to pay a guy $30 million, you should. I know it's beating a dead horse in the city, and heaven forbid anyone in the media not treat Dolan with with gloves, the glove treatment. But $30 million is the going rate for a player contract for a year. You can't afford it. You gotta sell a team.
Where were you at 640 during this argument, Matt? Where was Matt at 640?
I mean, Matt's right though. God, it's been a decade. I've said sell the team, sell the team. I mean, I can do that again today if that makes people feel better. I just ain't gonna make anybody feel better. I just don't see the guys lining up to buy the team that are going to not only spend the $30 million for Kwan, but then also put a big time baseball team around him. Because if that was the case, the team would already be sold, guys.
So now we both understand why we're getting cussed out on either side. We both understand this. We got Mary Kay coming up at 8:22, but I think we both got this now because you got Jose Ramirez, who now all of a sudden I have to say, not all of a sudden. I can sign Jose Ramirez. I have to gut the rest of the roster. You don't want to be saying that.
No.
Nobody wants to say that. And that's why the fans are that's why the fans are insulted by it. Because the other two teams in town, it's not a question. They have a salary cap, but again, your owner is a part of that problem. On the other side of it, I have two teams. One went out of its way to not win, to try to build up, and then failed. I have another team that went out of its way to not win, then build up, and then hasn't gotten close enough. So I can see why I'm getting cussed out on the other side, and you should be able to see why you're getting cussed out on the other side. Do you or do you not believe the Guardians should give an extension to Steven Kwan?
Yeah, seems like a good idea.
How much?
Well, I'd hope it's for $1, but that's probably not going to happen. The goal is normally to sign your players to as little money as possible.
But yeah.
So you can sign other players.
Yes.
But
you did that with Jose Ramirez, and then they didn't sign any other.
Likely will never happen again. So the number we've been throwing around is $30 million, and we've had some people, including somebody in the studio, say we are way overshooting it. Based on his
did
production.
Owen say it?
Owen, what say you?
Did Owen say it? I didn't know if you said it, Owen. I have no idea. Go ahead.
I don't want to say it now.
Well, say it then.
No,
man. Say it with your chest, baby.
I do. I'm trying to make a comparison, right? Try to figure out what ballpark we should be in. Because Anthony, you've brought up 30 million because you've read that, and I've read that as well. That he wants 30 million, and you can want in one hand and what in the other, right? Like a lot of people want things, right? And this was also written, I think, especially last year when he was batting 400 and not 280, right? There's a huge difference there when you look like you might be the next generational, it was Ichiro before him, and then Tony Gwynn before him, and then, Ted Williams before him, right? So when you're looking like one of those guys, of course you can go out and say, I want this amount of money. I just trying to search guys that have the productivity at the plate as him. The names that came back were Luis Ariz, J.P. Crawford, Cam Smith, Jarren Duran. Duran and Smith are both in arbitration years still, so those numbers don't really count right now. But Luis Ariz and J.P. Crawford, they're both making 10 or 11 million a year. sign like JP Crawford signed a 5-year, $51 million contract. I think that's undervaluing Steven Kwan. And I would be willing, if we're making negotiations, I would go up to $20 million a year for Steven Kwan. But $30 million right now, as it stands with the numbers that I see, I think is a little overreaching. Now, if he ends up, this Dodgers thing that we played the clip earlier, and the Dodgers have the money to just go give another guy $30 million a year, maybe he gets it from one of those teams. If I'm the Guardians and he signs for anything less than 20 million, I'm going to be pretty upset as a Guardians fan.
20 million. I'll tell you what, there's no doubt. Oh, if they refuse to offer him 20 million a year,
right?
I mean, I would understand why everybody in town would say, why ever watch this team again? 20 million. Because every team in their market size, even the teams that don't have local TV money coming in, any team that is remotely like us, they all have a player that's at 20 million.
Yeah.
We have Jose, so we already have one, but the thought process has to be a young player like this. This isn't Lindor. Lindor money was 25, but it was over 10 years. How long was the Lindor thing again?
I have to look.
It was like
10 years.
10 years at 300 million.
Yeah, 300. So his was over 30. You'd like to think 34 million a year. I think he was.
And like Ken brought up, but he has power. He'll go hit, 30 home runs a year.
Which is why
it will be in the MVP voting. And I'm not saying Steven Kwan can't be an MVP, but it's going to have to take more than what he's doing now on a full season level for him to be an MVP candidate.
I just assumed that Francisco Lindor wasn't feasible. So I never hammered him for
the only thing I hammered him
Lindor was 10 year,
yeah.
341 million.
The only thing I ever hammered the Dolans for when it came to Francisco Lindor was the Greater Cleveland Sports Awards thing. That's all I did.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. I knew it wasn't feasible then.
They enjoy him stuff.
We had a field day. An absolute field day.
But the other stuff there, it's like, hey, you can only afford what you can afford. I can understand that. So I have to be somewhat flexible in this, or I'm just not going to be able to talk about the Guardians ever again. But damn it, man, if we're talking about, okay, if I can offer you longevity, like say it's like if you're talking 3 years at $90 million, that seems to be a bit much for some. If you were talking 4 years, though, and you could spread it out, or 5 years, though, and you could spread it out, I'm offering you longevity, but you're also making it a little bit easier for us to afford other guys because you're 27 years old. The problem is that we're having this conversation about a team that probably ain't going to have any of this conversation. I know that they've offered him an extension before because that's usually where you talk about getting him on the cheap, but getting him some security. Tanner Bybee accepted it. I want to say Carlos Santana originally accepted it the first time around the Guardians. Other guys have accepted it as well. Steven doesn't seem interested in accepting that. All right, so what's the next recourse? Next recourse is to trade him to a team that will be able to afford him at the top of his market. At the top of his market is what? Well, at the top of his market is probably $25 to $30 million at the very tippy top. There's only a couple of teams that are really willing to build, a handful of teams that are willing to do that. I think he's worth it. My issue of it is that if you make a trade now, what do you stand for with your general fan coming off an ALCS run? If it can get you all this stuff back, then yeah, but I can't act like I sit there and I know the Dodgers prospects of what they'd be handing them back. And plus, would you be willing to give them that much back if you were the LA Dodgers? For Steven Kwan, for a guy who's going to want that amount of money? Do you really want to do that? So you might be stuck in a rock and a hard place where who's going to want to trade for Steven Kwan at such a price, and how much can you get back for Steven Kwan at such a price? I can't make an argument for prospects in a system I don't know about.
You don't think Steven Kwan would, I'm not saying a hometown discount, but take something off the $30 million to stay in Cleveland? We have comments from the other day, and we didn't really play him on the show.
Can I say this before we play the comment? I think if you added years, he would. If you added more security, he would take a little bit less up front because it's like what you get guaranteed is what you get guaranteed. It's not like the NFL so much. So if you added more years of security, then maybe you would.
You think we could do 125 maybe?
Yeah, I think maybe, but let's see what Steven has to say about the issue.
Another clubhouse with different teammates is so foreign to me that I would love to stay in Cleveland. I mean, I think I've learned so much by playing with Jose Ramirez that I think I would love to stay with him as long as possible.
Audio courtesy of Major League Baseball. So I think he's about his business and he wants to get as much money as he possibly can. I think that doesn't matter about whether it's with the Guardians or whether it's with anybody else. I do think that he would like to stay with guys that he may know. But I think that, again, I keep going back to the journal entry. He just seems to be more of a guy. I don't want to just keep going on one journal entry. He just does seem to be more of a guy who knows the business of baseball and wants to get everything out of it that he can while he can. Jose enjoys having a home. Jose enjoys being a person who is beloved in this city.
He's just a special case.
Yes.
You just hear so few guys, especially in that sport, do anything like Jose Ramirez did. So you almost got to take that out of your mind as any kind of a possibility. You just don't see anybody else who can cash in a big way. I mean, as far as Jose knew at the time, that was going to be the last contract, he was ever going to be able to sign. And normally guys in that situation in all of sports take the most money they can get. And he didn't even get close.
But you could also be, if you're Steven Kwan, think of it this way. I could just, unless the Guardians were to offer me an amount of money that they're not going to offer you. All right, he's from California, correct? Mid-Northern California?
Yeah, outside of what? Santa Cruz?
Okay, so here you go. You could always stick it out, get more money. You're going to get more money in arbitration anyway because you have arbitration years coming up, so you're bound to get some sort of a pay raise in arbitration. You could stick it out, end up getting yourself traded, end up getting yourself paid by one of the teams that are willing to pay people, like the Los Angeles Dodgers, like the San Francisco Giants, and I know it's way further up west, but maybe even the Seattle Mariners, if they were willing to make such a move like that. So there's three teams you can name right off the top there. San Diego, I'm not sure about San Diego's future. Again, we've talked about their past here recently, so I don't know if they're going to be willing to actually pay that sort of money for you to be back home in your home area. And I know San Diego is way further down south there. I understand that California is a very large state, but you could be in your home state and still get what you want. And then probably, especially if you end up with the Dodgers, San Francisco's an arguable point, but certainly with the Dodgers, you can get the chance to get it all. Home, money, championship chances. So it may be, I got to tell you, it may behoove Steven Kwan to just kind of be a stick in the mud about this whole thing. And as long as he doesn't get hurt, wouldn't it behoove him?
I can tell you're really taking the wind out of my sails right now.
Because what I'm trying to be is rational, and
I understand that.
I'm trying to be even rational. I know that
sucks, Ken, and I don't want to hear it right now.
I know I sound like, okay, there you go, because I'm trying to tell everybody else. I know I sound on the internet like psychotic Browns fan, baseball sucks guy. That's not it. It's not it whatsoever. For all I know, Steven Kwan very well, because there are no known unknowns right now. So I can wonder if Steven Kwan's just sitting there with his arms crossed going, absolutely not. No. Well, what if we got no? What if we got no? What if we got until you get to 120, it's a no. No. Okay, fine. Then I guess we have to trade you to the Dodgers and we're able to get Dustin May and all these other names that they know out there that I don't know back, and maybe they'll make the best of it.
Yeah,
there will be, as much as Steven Kwan is special within this lineup, there are other Steven Kwans out there. It's my issue, though, and what would suck for me is that it's another piece that goes away from Jose Ramirez. Sorry, go ahead.
No,
go ahead.
The killer in this, obviously, this is where you can bring up Josh Naylor and what happened. And I remember when any talk of Josh Naylor, and we did shows about whether or not Josh Naylor was going to be traded, did it make sense for him to be traded? There were a lot of people that defended that. They said, look at his body, look at his inconsistent play. He'll have 1 year where he bats for average. He'll have another year where he's batting for power. This year, he's batting for average. Yeah. He's not necessarily hitting as many home runs, although his slugging is fine.
That I think around the league, right? I think we value average way more than we do power because we don't have either, really, right? So you're like, well, it'd be easier to get to average probably.
OPS, on base percentage, average.
But around the league, I don't think they care about average more than they do power.
Mm-hmm.
I think power is way, and the average is just a bonus. Like, oh, we got a bonus on Josh Naylor if you're in Arizona, right?
But when they lost 10 games in a row, every call was they weren't serious. They traded Naylor, and I'm like, we had the conversations at the time. People actually understood moving on from Naylor.
But they could have lost 10 in a row and still scored 4 runs, 5 runs a game and lost.
That's true.
They scored in 2 innings.
Yeah.
They went on a stretch where they had a 6-run inning and a 2-run inning, and that was over like 7 games.
Well, not to mention it.
That's no fun.
It doesn't help when Tyler.
Detroit was 20 games over 500, and they lost 1-0, 2-1 thing. I know you're trying to get that out. It's just I'm frustrated about that stuff.
Oh, yeah, you
that
should be.
sucks. And you traded away a guy who was offense.
Well, and then you got Tyler Freeman batting 323.
Yeah.
Granted, it's with the Rockies,
And
but
Nolan Smith hits one really hard to center fielders. I'm sorry, Nolan Jones.
Hey, call him Nolan Smith. It don't matter.
Well, he might as well be. He might as be John Smith to me because that's who he is.
I'm willing
He's
to bet.
generic.
I'm willing to bet Nolan Smith could probably do the same things for you.
I'd rather have Nolan Richardson playing right field right now.
216-474-0092. Would you rather have Nolan Jones, Nolan Smith, or Nolan Richardson?